Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of Screen Overload Movie Talk. In today's episode, what we're going to talk about is just some more Star Wars news coming out from episode 9. We're going to talk Wonder Woman. We're going to also talk about new John Wick news that's also coming out, and obviously just give our thoughts on all of these things. Just moving on, and we're going to talk a couple of more things. So just going into today's show, what we're going to talk about is Star Wars from the outset. So we've had all of this great news coming out about Star Wars, but then there's been all of this stuff coming out at Star Wars off the camera. So in today's one, what we're going to talk about is episode 9. So the director of episode 9, Colin Trevorrow, has been removed from the project at this point. Seems like the Star Wars franchise is quite brutal in removing their directors. They released a statement stating that they've chose to mutually part ways. He's a great filmmaker, but they're gonna, choose to do things different. Their visions aren't the same. So who they've decided to bring back is J.J. Abrams for the project, which I'm quite happy about, to be honest. I like J.J. He launched the start of this new franchise. He's quite a great director. He's happy about the project. I mean, he started it. Why not let him finish it? He's so passionate anyway. He's had his hands in both worlds, both Star Trek and Star Wars. So why not? He's a great choice to finish the franchise, and I'm happy. For one, I'm quite happy to see what he does. He's going to be writing and directing the film, episode 9. So hopefully it's going to be really cool. Just moving on from there, Patty Jenkins, while we're talking directors in this episode, Patty Jenkins has signed on to direct Wonder Woman 2, which I'm really happy about. She made such a great film. Wonder Woman was far more surprising a film than a lot of us actually expected it to be, and considering how dark the DCEU has actually been, it's great to see that she came with such a film with such vibrancy and such light, and she's passionate about the project. I mean, she wanted certain women to play certain Amazons, and she fought for that no man's land sequence that we saw in the film. That was all her. She had to fight for that scene, and it's such a great scene. It changed the scope of the film and what happened going into the second and third act. It was a great film that she's bringing along new writers as well, who have signed on board. So hopefully they bring the same fun and creativity that we've had with the original film, and they can just keep the trend going, because what she seems to have done is actually course corrected the DCEU, and I for one am happy to see that female's doing so well within the directing, and good luck to her. Moving on to other stories that are coming out, Gavin OConnor is set to direct Suicide Squad 2. Now, I've said before about my thoughts on Suicide Squad. It wasn't the greatest film, but it wasn't the worst film. I just think maybe one too many cooks in the kitchen, taking all of the great ingredients but just not cooking the main course correctly, if we want to say that. You've got everything you need in there. You had Harley Quinn, you had the Joker, you had Boomerang, you even had Deadshot and Katana. All of these really cool characters, this offbeat thing, and it's just not what everyone expected it to be. It was the critics didn't enjoy it, fans of the genre didn't enjoy it. I don't think there's too many people out there who actually enjoyed Suicide Squad. So it'd be interesting to see what Gavin OConnor does with the franchise. I'm quite a fan of Gavin O'Connor's work. I have been since Warrior, starring Tom Hardy, which was a great film that he did a couple of years ago, and also what he did the previous year with none other than Batman Ben Affleck in The Accountant, which was a great film. And if he can bring some of that stuff that he brought with The Accountant to Suicide Squad, man, is it going to be a great film. So hopefully he can take some of those things there, bring it to that with a great story, use the likes of Will Smith, who are great actors in their own right anyway, and obviously bring them into this thing where we've got a better story that serves these characters, and hopefully we can have a great film from that. Lose the Joker, lose all of the silliness, and let's make a serious film. Let's make it actually a Suicide Squad movie. I'm all for that. Just moving on from there, what we're going to talk about is Hellboy. So we've just had a release of Hellboy the new Hellboy, who's going to be acted by David Harbour in this film, as we touched on in the previous episode of Movie Talk. So what they've done is just released a series of images, obviously giving us our first look at the character. There's this cool black and white shot that we've got, and what we've done is we've put this comparison shot of Ron Perlman's against his one. So that's interesting. This just looks more detailed, this version, if anything. Obviously the arm just looks really cool, the muscles looks cool on it as well. I mean, if you, as we're scrolling down here, you can obviously see, look at the detail, it's just far more detailed than the Ron Perlman version. Not that the Ron Perlman version was bad, it just looks a bit better. He looks a bit beefier, and I can't wait to see what they do. I'm actually intrigued by this now, I'm quite happy. It's going to be really cool. So as we obviously said, we've got the comparison between the two. It's just a different kind of beast, and I can't wait to see what David Harbour does with the character. I love the Ron Perlman movies and Guillermo del Toro, but this is going to be its own thing, and I want to see what happens with that. But as I said, I do think David Harbour is just going to bring a different sort of intensity. If you've seen him in Stranger Things, you know what kind of actor he is and how he portrays it. And if you saw him in his Oscar speech, the guy is very impassioned in terms of the way that he talks, and I like that. And if you bring some of that kind of stuff to what he's doing with Hellboy, then it's going to be an amazing film. It's going to be great. I think it's going to be good anyway, but I can't wait to see what he does with the role. And I mean, it's just interesting. I mean, this whole project's been interesting from the start. You had all of the stuff going on with Ed Skerin, with the cast, and largely it's been quite a it's been a diverse project, but now it seems to be course correcting itself. We're moving into a way where we've got new actors like Daniel Day Kim who are joining the project, who's taken over the Ed Skerin role. I'm still not familiar with the character who he's meant to be acting as, but he's now cast in a role that's meant to be suited for him. But the sad part, as I say, is that they've had to obviously cast him based on somebody else leaving the project in order for him to do it. I do hope, obviously, as I've said before, this changes the way that Hollywood thinks about making films, because it's got to be a medium that works for everybody. So you can't just cast somebody in a role that was made for somebody else. Not that you can't do things like that, but we're all inclusive. So hopefully that opens a line of dialogue, and good luck to Daniel Day Kim. Just moving on from there in regards to obviously stories that are coming out. What we're going to talk about now is we're just going to have a look at John Wick. We've got another John Wick. John Wick 3 has just been announced for May 17th, 2019. So if any of you out there saw John Wick 2, you know where we've left this character now. And I, for one, can't wait to see what Keanu Reeves does with this character. I've been enjoying this since John Wick 1. I'm madly excited for this film. John Wick 2 came out earlier this year, and it was one surprising standout film. I loved it as much as I loved the first film. In fact, it's close to edging the first film in terms of its intensity. The story was good. I love the setting of it. I love the drama, the music, everything about it, the way it's put together. Some of the camera shots are great, and I think just what Keanu Reeves is doing with this character, I mean, he's had a whole roster of characters that we've seen him as, Theodore Logan, for example. He played the Ted character, and obviously we've had him as Neo in The Matrix, but this John Wick character is just something else about him. I like this kind of broken assassin who doesn't really want to be that guy and is forced back into the world, and I like that. It was a really cool take, and you kind of feel sorry for him, but at the same time you want him to kind of, you long for the character to kind of win in the end, and that's kind of cool. And I can't wait to see what they do with chapter 3, just based on how we left that second film. It's going to be good. Moving on from there, Chris McKay, director of the Lego movies, came out saying that he obviously is directing Nightwing, and he's talking about his take on Nightwing and what he sees that he's going to do with the project. He's obviously going to talk about Nightwing's early years. I don't know how much of the Batman is actually going to feature in the project, but what I'm hearing is that he wants to incorporate a lot of the Flying Grayson stuff. He wants to talk about his past, so maybe we'll get a lot of flashback to his earlier days from when he was the Boy Wonder, and probably we'll have some scenes that mimic that and obviously show him with Batman. Again, which Batman, we don't know. Ben Affleck, who knows? We've talked about that before. Is he still going to be part of the project? Will they just introduce any of the larger Bat family? Any of the other, Robins, for example. Will we see Bruce Wayne? Will we see Batman? Will we see Barbara Gordon? Will we see any of this stuff? I'm interested to see what he does with it. I think it's going to be interesting. And with the course correction, as I said, that we've had with Wonder Woman, this could be really good. So I can't wait to see what he does with it. Nightwing, it's an interesting thing. Let's see. Moving on from there, we've obviously had some news coming out about Deadpool. Deadpool's going to be in the X-Force movie. Now, X-Force is an interesting X-Men spin-off title. And the X-Men obviously have got a lot of things going on there. And then X-Force is a spin-off title. And it's also going to feature none other than Josh Brolin as his Cable. So the two characters are obviously going to be in it together. And I'm sure they'll have top billing. But it's a role where it's not heavily centered on Deadpool. It's not heavily centered on Cable. It's a team film. So I'm interested to see how they sort of get away with that. Deadpool and Cable have been part of the X-Force. Now, for people who aren't familiar with what X-Force is, I should obviously just say that X-Force is the Black Ops unit, if you will, of the X-Men. They do all the dirty work that normal X-Men, the heroic version of the X-Men, won't do. So you'll have characters like Wolverine, who's not afraid to get his hands dirty. Psylocke's been known for it. And even a character such as Domino has also been part of it. So it'd be interesting to see if Domino will be part of this and whether Zazie Beetz, who's playing that in the Deadpool 2 role, will actually be in the film. So as I say, it's interesting news that came out that Deadpool and Cable are going to be part of that. So I, for one, can't wait to see how they handle that, whether there will be a darker film, whether it will be R-rated. We'll see that. The more information we know, the more information I'll let you know. In other news, Josh Boone has just wrapped his film X-Men, I shouldn't call it X-Men, I should say New Mutants, which is also part of this franchise. So I can't wait to see more on this as well. It's going to be interesting. But if you've had any thoughts, guys, let me know what you think. Like, comment, subscribe. Give me your thoughts on films, on film news, anything that we should cover in the episode. Let me know.